Here Now Live, number 35. We're here. We're here now. Peace, love to you. Here Now Live, number 35. My name is Morcie. I'm a coach, a teacher, a consultant, a mentor, your spirit guide, a guide. You're here for a very specific reason. I may not know that right now specifically, but you're here for a reason. You were meant to hear something that's coming out of this space. You're meant to receive something, insight to help you release, let go, to just be, experience the joy of being, to improve your relationship with your mind, right? Freedom, true freedom is the joy of knowing that you are not your thoughts. Here Now Live, number 35. Here Now Live is a space where we come together to expand our present moment awareness. What is the present moment, you may ask? The present moment is everything that's happening minus your thoughts about it. Everything that's happening minus your critiques, your judgments, criticisms. It's everything that's happening. The more we recognize it, we honor it, we see it, we're grounded in the moment. We flow with the moment, one with the moment, fully aware that you are the moment. You are life. You don't just have a life, you are life. So welcome to Here Now Live, number 35. Much gratitude for you being here, whether you're here live or you're watching the recording. You were meant to see this, you were meant to be here. Shout out to the chat. I am Shibi. Peace, joy, and contentment can be found in a mind that is quiet. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. We will see the tongue drum at the end of the live. And dive in. Akum Abu Gilbert. Much love to you. Welcome to Here Now Live. Mage Matthews, welcome. I remember your question. I'm glad you're here. Adrian, you made it. You didn't forget this time. You remembered. You're here. Welcome back. Here Now Live, number 35. That rhymed. I noticed that too. Bars. Cheers to the chat. I'm feeling grateful to be here. How is everyone feeling in the chat? How are you feeling today? I've got myself a jasmine tea. You guys already know. Jasmine tea. It's so good. Here now. All right, you know what? I'm going to play a little tongue drum. Actually, play a little tongue drum. Get it settled in. If you're here, grab a cup of tea, light a candle, get comfortable. It's all a vibe here. We're going to chat it up. Ask a little Q&A about observing thoughts and improving our relationship with the mind, the body. Talk about what we're grateful for. I'll read to y'all, and we'll have a live guided meditation. So sit back, relax, and be here. Much love to the chat. Jason, good to see you here once again. Just Sean, moderator gang, much love to you. Thank you for being here. Much love to the chat. Much love to the chat. How are y'all feeling today? Let me know in the chat. How was your day? If you can give me one word to describe the entirety of the day thus far, share in the chat. Let me know. Playing. It's like quite dramatic. What's up? Peace and love to the chat. Just Sean, chilled vibes. Just Sean, fulfilling, much love. If I were to describe today's day in one word, it would be man. Awakening comes to me. Honestly, that's the first word that came to me. Sometimes words come to us and we're like, nah, it can't be that. Was it that? Yeah, actually it is. You know, that's when we know that's actually that's flow. That's when, not just flow, but it's an aspect of our intuition speaking to us. Perhaps spirit in some way, however you define that, right? Sometimes it could be the first thought. Sometimes it's not. It's all up to you and your relationship with your mind. Thank you for sharing, y'all. Once again, we're here now live, number 35. Much gratitude to the Here Now community. Before I hopped on this live, I was sitting outside on the steps, bare feet planted in the grass. Looked up at the sky, and I was like, wow, 35 lives. 35 live streams where we all came together, expand our present moment awareness. I've come to realize fully and wholly how the topic of observing the mind is fairly new to quite a few people, and not only is it new, but it's a game changer, if I could say in the least. And when it comes to peace and fulfillment, right? We got the words chill, fulfilling, peace, that state of consciousness, that state of being that all arises when we allow ourselves to just be, to notice the thoughts that arise, to do nothing consciously. You can say, hey, I'm going to relax, and then your mind is all over the place, consumed in worry and fear, and it's not chill, it's not fulfilling, it's not peace there. It's not always necessarily about what you do or what you obtain or what you accomplish. Most of the time, our joy and our fulfillment, I wouldn't even say most of the time, our joy and our fulfillment, it all comes from prioritizing our state of consciousness. Prioritizing our state of consciousness, right? A new earth. If you are here right now on this live, you're watching the recording, you're following this page, you're a part of the new earth. The new earth. The new earth is not a physical place. It's a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness where you prioritize your state of consciousness. Where in each moment, you pause, a little peaceful pause, space. You pause and you consider, how is this moment influencing my state of conscious? What is my state of consciousness? It's just a check-in, a pause, be there fully. That's what we need a little bit more in our day-to-day is pausing, right? Pausing. It's very simple, and a pause can change everything. A pause your mind could be flowing in one particular thought stream, and this thought stream is bringing you more and more into unconsciousness, and a simple pause is enough to point you back to the present moment. A simple pause is enough to remind you that you are not your thoughts, and that thought stream is just a thought stream. And what's real is what you see, is what's happening, is the now. That groundedness, security, safety, it's home, it's peace, it's joy, it's you. Cheers to the chat. All right. A new earth. You're all a part of a new earth. A state of consciousness where you prioritize your state of consciousness, your peace, your joy, fulfillment. A new earth where we transcend all of those unconscious behaviors that have dominated society for so long. It's here already. There's no even need to wait for it. It's already here. It's here. That's what this chat right here, a new earth is here, and it's not going anywhere, because once you know, you know. Once you're aware, there's no going back. And it's only growing. So thank yourselves for being here. You could be anywhere else, but you're here and here now live. Choosing to expand your present moment awareness, choosing to be present with yourself, the most important person to be present with. Because when you're present with you, you can be present with anyone else. Fully there, holding space, support, love. So thank yourselves for being here. Throughout this live, I'm going like this, but I don't have to. Throughout this live, you will notice there will be some spaces, gaps, pauses. You'll notice that quite often within this live. Gaps of space between ideas, thoughts, words. In that space, be there fully. There might be a thought that arises and says, what's the next idea that's going to be shared? What are we doing? Why aren't we doing anything? Just notice it. That's it. Notice it. Noticing is an incredible practice that has saved me. Not only has it saved me, but it has been my inspiration for being here, right? That simple practice. A reminder that these words that I'm sharing with you, they're all pointers to the now. Pointers to this very moment. So I encourage you throughout this live to be with the space. Notice the space. Flow is engagement and relaxation, right? It's discipline and surrender, some might say. And in this live, there will be engagement, and there will also be relaxation. There will be silence. We will honor the entire spectrum. We will honor the inevitable counterparts of life. All right, light and dark, peace and chaos. Sun and moon, daylight, nighttime. We're honoring it, all right? We're honoring it. So, once again, taking the space with me, that's what it means to be here now. Recognizing the space within the noise, within whatever is happening, and being there. That's it. I invite you to join me in one conscious breath meditation. A meditation can be as simple as one conscious breath. A meditation is not necessarily something you do, but it is a state of being. It's how you be, your state of being, how you be. And often, taking one conscious breath is a channel into peace, into the present moment, into honoring your natural state. Peace, calm, here-ness, now-ness, wholeness. So I invite you to join me in this one conscious breath, all right? Take one conscious breath in. One conscious breath out. Bring your awareness to your heart center. And be here. Thank you all for joining me in that one conscious breath meditation. Much love to the chat. Peace and love to the chat. I see we got some questions here. Mage. Much love, Cecilia Kakilia. Great to see you here in the chat. Here now live, number 35. Peace, love, wholeness. Yanbu, thank you for being here. Alrighty. So today's live, we will be chatting about observing the mind, observing thoughts, emotions, the foundation of this channel, a powerful practice. And I see that it is, I know that it is, I would say a practice that we have a lot of questions to. So let's dive in, and I'll answer the questions here, and then I have some questions from the community section. So let's dive in. Mage Matthews. All right, Mage, I'm going to break this down. Mage Matthews, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I were to take time out of my everyday to revert my attention to when I was in love, how I felt, what warm feelings that I encountered during those moments, is that in a way me reprogramming my subconscious mind? Because I remember those times vividly enough to drift away in the thought, have full engagement with, lose track of time, of basking in that moment of love. So much so I can feel it as if it was the present, right here and now. And to be clear, I am no way referring to the sex of making love. It is also not emotions of sorrowful or dread, no. Alrighty. In short, for your first, I would say, yeah, you can reprogram your subconscious. There are many ways that we program the subconscious, and often it's conscious, often it's not. A conscious way could be reverting back into the past and diving in and living in a memory. Sure. Yeah, in short, that is you reprogramming the subconscious. There are many ways. Often that is a way to dive into the feeling of love. So let's say one may feel as though you haven't received love in your life, right? Someone may say, oh, I haven't received love in my life. I don't know what that feels. I don't know what it feels like to love. I don't know what it feels like to love myself. Often we can dive into the past. Remember the moments we were loved. State gratitude for that. We consider the moments where someone showed us love. And we then learn how to love ourselves because someone showed us, right? I find that what I'm sharing is an example of you can use the mind without it using you. The mind uses you if you were to get attached to that thought or idea, and find that moment in the past where you were basking in that moment of love has more one may say, value than this moment right here. This moment where love at its finest is most grand. It's always the present moment, right? And often, if we are not giving awareness to the present moment, we end up giving awareness to an idea of the past. We end up giving awareness more to living in our mind. And of course, I say this from experience. I had a video when I shared about my daydreaming moments where I would daydream. I used to see that as this problem. It's not a problem. It's actually quite helpful when being in the world of form. It's just a matter of learning how to move with the mind that so many visions are flowing in, so many thoughts, so many ideas and emotions, they're all coming in at once. And I find that is an aspect of awakening to what appears to be an active mind, and then recognizing, I could work with this. It's not actually in my way. So ultimately, Mage, to answer your first question, all right, it is. And in relation to the present, it is not the present though. So we'll keep that. Make sure that's clear. When we are, even if it were to feel like it was presence, it's not presence, right? Presence is here. Presence is now, right? Like even me just saying these words, it's a pointer to the present. So I said presence is here and now, and immediately that was a pointer to the present. So now I'm aware of the moment as it is right now, right? Number 2, Mage Matthews. So would you say that I'm on the right path with that one? And if so, then what method should I use to enhance it? I would ask Mage, what is your intention? Because I don't know what your fullest intention is, right? To say, like, what is your intention? Is your intention to expand your self-love with yourself? Is your intention to find love with someone else? Like, what is your intention? So otherwise, I don't have enough. And number 4, also, since I am in this positive thinking, high vibration, fastest frequency state of mind, can't I use it as a bridge, a placebo to connect to other positive moments to occur for me? Okay, there we go. So right there, number 4. Thoughts are energy, right? So what comes to mind is the awareness of the present moment as an objective reality, right? I like to share in a very simple manner, right? The present moment is everything that's happening minus your thoughts about it. So for a moment, be completely still and just be here. Just notice the thoughts that might arise in the mental field, emotions that arise, right? Just notice. All that you are noticing is the present moment. Just noticing, right? There's no judgment in noticing. It's just noticing, right? And noticing is, in fact, it's effortless. There's nothing you have to do to notice. So we have that foundation, the groundedness, that alwaysness. It remains the same, that sense of awareness, right? Noticing. Noticing is what I'm speaking about, awareness. So thoughts are energy. So when we think a thought, when we are consumed in the thought, in a way, we become that thought. That's how we engage with this subjective world, right? So I'll give myself, for example. I'm someone who I enjoy chatting about present moment awareness, right? I enjoy coming on YouTube, chatting it up with y'all, going live. So my thoughts and emotions are in that stream of thinking. And remaining focused in it, you begin to attract that which aligns with that, because that is the energy you are emanating, right? This is why you might hear others say, stay focused, right? Don't allow yourself to get distracted, right? There's nothing wrong with the nature of a stream of thought. We use stream of thoughts to create in the physical world, right? In this world, we use them. They're what we use, right? So in short, for number 4, of course, right? Your thoughts can indeed be, well, you said a placebo. Can't I use it as a bridge, a placebo, to connect to other positive moments that occur to me? Alrighty. Let me come together. Yes. I thought I was something else. The simple answer for that is yes. And when I put in I would say, my perspective, right, in terms of present moment awareness, I find that your state of consciousness, right? We talk about present moment awareness and prioritizing our state of consciousness. And in your question, it's leaning towards manifestation, right? The question of manifestation, experiencing positive moments, right? What comes to mind is the fact that this world is a mirror of how we engage with it, the way we perceive it. This world is a mirror of what we claim from it. And even when we use the word positive, right? A positive moment is the way the mind perceived the moment. A positive moment does not lie in what happens. A positive moment lies in your perspective of what happened. There could be 2 people in the same room and one experienced a positive experience and one experienced a negative one, as we might say, whatever it might be, positive and negative. And that is all from their state of consciousness. So ultimately, if we're going to dive into positive moments, right, that's up to you. And this is why I encourage inviting in space, moment to moment, being aware, right? I share this and I say, you're feeling upset? Good. You're suffering? Great. Great. You're overwhelmed, you're stressed? Wonderful. It's a perfect moment to invite in presence, to be still, to invite in silence, spaciousness, so that we are still in the moment as it is and we don't find ourselves attached to a positive moment, right? A need to experience a positive moment, because that in and of itself can become a small form of suffering, right? A need to experience a positive moment when right here and right now, that this moment can be positive, right? If this world is a mirror of the way we see it, it's a mirror of our thoughts about it and things like that. This very moment can shift from negative to neutral to positive to neutral to negative. Make sense? It switches all based on our state of consciousness. Cheers to that question. Thank you, Mage. And let me know too if that answered your question. Little Queenie is here. She wants to join the Here Now live stream. Come here, Bubs. See, she already knows the deal. You already know the deal, right? Yonbu 3. Hey, Morcie, I have one question. It's how can I act and talk and let my true self control everything, because sometimes I'd be confused if it's my ego or my true self that arises within me. Something very simple, the simple answer, right? You know it's your ego when there's this yearning and this need. Actually, that's it. When there's a yearning and there's a need. There's a yearning for another moment, a yearning for another person. There's this yearning for more. A need to feel safe, a need to feel loved, a need to feel supported. There's this underlying intent that's going on, right? Your true self, it already feels that sense of love. It already feels that sense of groundedness. The decisions you're making, it just feels aligned. It feels whole, and I would even say heart-centered. So the question is, how can I act, talk, and let my true self control everything? I would even say the idea of control too, something that we might question. Are we in control? Are we not in control? I would say this, release the need to control. Release the need to prove yourself to anyone. And release the need to protect some form or identity. Your authentic self, you are already your authentic self. Whatever vision that arises in your mind, you say, how can I act and talk and let my true self? I would just say, instead of control everything, I would say be in flow, right? Being in flow. Because often we can't control everything. And maybe that's one thing to consider and to remember, right? Not everything's in our control. So if we can sit and first ask ourselves, what is in our control? I think that would be a great first step. And to remind ourselves that you are most present when you have nothing to prove to anyone, when you don't have an identity to protect. That's when you can be your truest self, your most authentic self. The ego, it cannot live in the present moment. So when you're present, there is no ego. There is no need to protect an identity and individuality, right? There's no need to protect the individual in that way. It's a freedom, a beautiful, beautiful freedom, or conscious freedom, I would say. Cheers to that. Thank you for those questions. Just Sean, y'all asking some questions today, right? We came for this Q&A. Baby. Mage. Alrighty, so I agree. I've grown from the experience by learning to love myself. Totally agree. Much love, much love. Completely still and just be here. Nice notice and observing. Notes, taking notes. Your intention is self-love, journey to my higher self. Okay. Alrighty, so your intention is self-love, journey to your higher self, manifestation, positivity. All right, there's a couple things here. And I'm going to bring it all into one the best way I can in this moment, right? I would say, Mage, do you have a practice of simply noticing, going outside, doing nothing consciously, or just doing nothing consciously in your room, or wherever you are, when you can, when you're aware enough, observing the mind? If not, I encourage you to do so. I find that when it comes to the concept of self-love, we find that we engage more in that self-love with that noticing. How? Because with that noticing, there's enough space to choose love. Right? With that noticing, there is enough space to choose love, and specifically self-love. Right? Often, if we are not experiencing that self-love from ourselves, perhaps there's a lot of mental activity going on within the mind. Perhaps there is, we're on autopilot mode, where we continuously act and behave in old ways that do not honor the way we love ourselves. For me, love is giving awareness to the self, giving space, honoring what we need in that moment. And this becomes a lot easier and effortless when we are in recognition of the moment now. So I'll give an example, and I'll say, I'll give an example of myself, right? There's a moment today where I found myself, the mind, right? There was a lot going on within my mind. And I noticed there was a lot of old thoughts arising. What was happening was my awareness was getting so consumed in these thoughts that it felt real, right? That's what happens. We get consumed in thought and it feels real. That's what overstimulation is. Overstimulation is more about where we're choosing to put our awareness, right? It's more about where we're choosing to put our awareness than what's actually happening within the mind. Once again, right? We don't have much control over all these thoughts that are flowing through the mental field. We do have control over, let's say, if we're on the computer and we're reading a whole bunch of stuff or watching things and there's an influx of information, we do have control over closing it and putting it away, right? We do have control over choosing to sit down and do nothing consciously, right? We do have control over that. We may not necessarily have control over all the thoughts that are flowing in our mental field, right? So what I'm sharing is when you choose to notice, self-love comes with ease. You don't have to try. You make a choice, a very conscious choice, right? You'll recognize that the journey to your higher self, it doesn't necessarily need to be a journey. It's more of recognizing you as your higher self, right? That affirmation of I am my higher self. There's no one I need to try to connect to, nothing outside of me. That is you. Your higher self is an aspect of you. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a journey, just a moment of awareness, right? That's how I see it, right? So that it's not something we need to yearn for. We're already acknowledging that it's here now. Acknowledge the moments when you show yourself self-love. Acknowledge the moments when you are acting, when you are thinking, when you are being in your highest. Maybe you're just being. Acknowledge those moments. And when you acknowledge those moments more, you experience them here in the now, right? This is why we chat about gratitude, being grateful. Gratitude is a channel into the now, this very moment. And so in this moment, you recognize there is no need to yearn. There's no need to search. Your higher self is here now. Self-love is here now. Simply noticing is an act of love. Simply noticing an act of awareness that feeds into your day-to-day, how you spend your day-to-day, where do you put your energy? Now you're bringing more awareness into awareness, right? Simple as that, right? Same thing with the manifestation. We're manifesting all day, every day, baby. I'm manifesting right now with the words that I'm speaking. You're writing in the chat. You're manifesting messages in the chat. You see, when we start acknowledging that we're already participating in that which we want, it's no longer a want. It's a recognition of now. And then we step into the now, being in the now, right? And that continues to expand, if that makes sense. Yes. So even with manifestation, right? It's not a need to yearn. We can choose to be fully here without this need to make another moment more valuable than this moment. That's something that happens with manifestation. We'll be like, all right, I want to manifest this car, this new job, this new relationship, right? What happens with manifestation is that idea, that vision, it becomes more, it starts to be more enjoyable. It seems that way to live in the mind rather than be here. Because that future moment is never going to arise as a future moment. It will always arise as the present moment. So when we choose to engage in this moment fully, then we will experience these moments fully, right? Instead of yearning for another moment, right? And so this is how this all ties back into the foundation of presence, the foundation of noticing and observing the mind. It may not feel as though, maybe initially the mind might be like, that doesn't make sense, but it's not for the mind. It's not one of those things that the mind is going to understand, right? This is how I share it when we're noticing, why we choose to notice. You know those moments when you get so consumed in thought that what's in the foreground are the thoughts and the present moment is actually in the background. What happens is when we choose to notice, that flips. The noticing is in the foreground. The thoughts are in the background. So what's more of our awareness is the fact that we are aware. And the thoughts are just going. That's it. They're just there. They're just thoughts. And once again, thoughts, they do help us manifest here. But if we come back to the root of noticing, we become master manifestors, conscious manifestors, right? Hope that one helped. Little Queenie. She's really, can't really see her. Much love. I am She Be. Halito Honus. Power to everyone. How are you, Morcie? Much love. I am She Be. Welcome to the live. Here now, live number 35. Mage, thank you for your questions. These are great questions. Very helpful for, when you ask a question, more than likely there's someone else who has that same question. So thank you all for asking these questions. Great questions. Much love, Yan Boo. All right. Ibrahim. How can I let my thoughts flow? I've been trying to let it float away, but it just feels impossible. The simple answer is to just notice them. To just notice them. One may say, how do you just notice? It's so, I realize it's so interesting, the human experience of, it's not actually us needing to learn something. It's more of unlearning. It's not more of a doing, but it's more of a not doing. And when we can learn when to not do and when to do, we're flowing, right? Engagement and relaxation, discipline and surrender, right? When we, and so in this practice of noticing thought and observing them fade away, this is in those moments where No action need be done. Just a simple noticing. And ultimately, what happens with the mind, the reason why we find that it feels impossible for thoughts to just float away is because awareness are being constantly consumed in the mind, being constantly consumed in the thought, rather than space. We're so used to giving attention to the stimuli within our life experience, right? We're so used to giving attention to thought. We're so used to giving attention to emotions. We're so used to giving attention to everything that's happening. And there's not enough space to give awareness to space, actually. And so when it comes to simply noticing, it's a practice. It's a practice until it's not a practice, right? Just like we learn how to ride a bike, right? It's a practice of non-resistance. That's another thing, another reason why it may feel impossible for the thought to just float away, because there is resistance to the thought. One of the practices I like to share, especially in the live guided meditations, is thanking our thoughts. Often we judge a thought. We say this thought is positive, this thought is negative. This thought is good, this thought is bad. So when meditation, or when we are meditating, we choose to observe the mind. We set the intention to let thoughts fade away. It's often that judgment that gets in the way of us simply noticing. Noticing is just whatever arises. An emotion arises, it's there. A thought arises, it's there. If resistance arises, it arises. Just notice the resistance, right? It's literally simply noticing everything. And often, right, when it even comes to feeling as though it's impossible, for those thoughts to fade away, Queen. I've been trying to I forgot where it was. It escaped me. Queen has made me laugh because she just got in such a cute little position. But yeah, like ultimately, in short, simply notice. And I would say this: notice the resistance specifically. So set an intention to observe the thought's flow, and not only observe thought, but observe resistance towards the thought. Notice the resistance towards the thought. Notice everything that's arising, right? And naturally, you'll be non-reactive. It doesn't matter the thought, it doesn't matter the vision, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. The practice is that choice, the conscious choice to say, I'm going to be here and just notice. And just to give an example of myself, right? I share with you all that I do nothing consciously often. I do it every day. It's actually has to be one of my preferred choices of things to do or not do. And in that space, that's exactly what I do. And I'll share with you what happens in that space is there are moments when I get consumed in a stream of thought. And what happens is I get consumed in the stream of thought. I recognize that, notice it, and simply just choose to just notice it and be there. Then it's almost like the moment you notice that you were consumed in thought is the moment you're present. It's simple. It's simple, right? The mind might be like, but what about this? And what about that? That's exactly what the mind does when we observe it, right? More questions will always arise, right? Trust me, I'm one. I enjoy questions. I would say my personality is quite curious. I love to learn, love learning new things. And a big aspect of learning new things is learning when enough is enough. And when observing the mind, what happens is those questions never stop. You might get a question, oh, why is this important? Why should I be observing the mind, right? but you're simply noticing. It's only when you get consumed in the thought that you question the practice of observing the mind. But when you're observing the mind, that question is just a question, right? Awareness is the foreground. Awareness is you. The thoughts are just coming and going. That's it. They're just coming and going. They're just in the background. That's it. They don't have any control over you. They don't influence your perspective of the moment, right? You are in recognition of the wholeness of the moment, right? And so that is what I choose. That is what essentially happens when I'm doing nothing consciously. Just allowing the moment to be. No shame, no saying, oh, that's wrong, this is right, right? That creates more mental activity. That creates more mind. It says, oh, you did that wrong. Oh no, I got lost in thought. Oh no. All of that creates more mental activity. So the intention when doing nothing consciously is just to notice your every movement. Sometimes I'll just start moving because, if you're sitting up, sometimes the back will hurt if you're not used to being still for a certain amount of time. And you'll notice that switch between engaging with movement and then you just sit into stillness. This is what happens with me. I move and then I'm still. The stillness doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like something I have to do. The stillness is enjoyable. The stillness, it aids in present moment awareness because when your body is so still, the only thing that you're really aware of is awareness. Your body's so still, there's nothing to notice. I mean, not to say there's nothing to notice, but you're not doing anything. So nothing is getting in the way of you noticing the noticing. When you're still, nothing gets in the way of you noticing the noticing, right? Invite more space into your everyday. This is where peace comes from. We will not remember our natural state of being, peace, if we're not in it, with it, choosing to do nothing. The only thing that's there is just you. You go outside, your phone's not there, you got nothing, you're just sitting there. I always say outside because that's what I do. You could be in the room, do it in my room too. It doesn't matter where you are, honestly, but hey, I would recommend starting it. If you find resistance to it, do it in a space that makes you feel most comfortable. Like go outside in nature. Maybe if your room is super comfy, make your room comfy and just be there. 15 minutes. Be with yourself, doing just nothing for 15 minutes. You got to be with yourself. You're going to be with yourself your whole life. And you are the most important person to have a conscious relationship with. When you have a conscious relationship with yourself, it's easy to have a conscious relationship with anyone else, right? Cheers to that. Thank you, Ibrahim, for your question. Mage, lovely example, clearing yourself from the clouds of old thoughts by being your awareness to the now, to the present. Thank you for that. Much love, Mage. Paulo Ricardo, welcome to Here Now Live. Welcome to the chat. Antoine Lyons, hello, welcome to Here Now Live. Here Now Live, number 35. We are here having a Q&A about observing thoughts, observing emotions, noticing, doing nothing consciously, a powerful practice, a very, very simple practice that can be done or not done anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter what you're doing or not doing. Welcome to the chat. Paulo Ricardo, what do you think about the different meditations we have today? Like, what do you think about transcendental meditation? Is it better than mindfulness meditation in some cases? I actually don't know the difference between those meditations. Let me look them up. I don't know the difference. When it comes to meditation for me, there's certain ones I always prioritize observing the mind. I think envisioning is quite nice when it comes to stepping into a new identity, right? So when it comes to that engagement in our day-to-day and building and manifesting, it is helpful to envision the plan, envision how you would act, envision how you'd feel in the moment, even feel that right now, right? That's an aspect of manifestation. So you can envision simultaneously. You can choose to simply be aware of thoughts, of emotions, bringing your awareness to the present moment, right? Let's see. Okay, so let's see if this is correct, right? Transcendental meditation. Sit comfortable in a chair, 30 seconds of quiet, repeat a mantra. Don't think about your breathing. Let the mantra draw your attention, but allow thoughts to float by. You may experience moments of transcendence, a pleasant feeling of restful alertness. Meditate 20 minutes. Take 3 mantra-free minutes before opening your eyes. Practice twice a day. So you're repeating a mantra in your head. So that is a transcendental meditation. That's what it, in a nutshell, huh? All right, let's see. Developed in the 1950s by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, which involves repeating a mantra, a sound or a word, silently to yourself for 20 minutes twice a day while sitting with your eyes closed. The goal is to achieve a deep state of okay, cool, okay. Something came in my head when that came up. Mindfulness meditation that involves paying attention to the present moment, observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It is often practiced by focusing on the breath, by scanning the body. The goal of mindfulness is to cultivate greater awareness. Okay, gotcha. And then so ultimately, Paulo Ricardo, I'm just learning about it today, the transcendental meditation. I'm thinking too, when I think mantra, I think of Om, right? And that sound Om, it's said to be the first sound of the entire universe. I think this is helpful. This is just something that came to mind. So one, to answer your question, what do you think about the different meditations we have today? I think in reading these meditations are powerful. Whatever you feel most drawn to, try it out. Why not? Why not, right? A meditation is a meditation. The intention is to bring your awareness to, I would say, within your essence, to silence, to stillness, right? To beingness in some form or way. And if you feel drawn to a certain meditation, try it out. Try it out. No need to fear. I think that's a great way to begin to practice following your intuition, trusting yourself above all else, learning more about yourself. If you feel drawn to something, go for it and see what comes out of it, right? There's no such thing as a mistake unless the mind says so. Same thing for a problem. So yeah, that's my thought on that. I just read that. And what do I think about transcendental? Is it better than mindfulness in some cases? Me looking at this, it all depends on what you need in the moment. So what do you need in the moment? In the moment, do you just need to pay attention and observe your thoughts? Or in the moment, do you find that it would be helpful to repeat a mantra and silently sit with yourself for 20 minutes? What do the two meditations help you do, right? So I wouldn't say one is particularly better than another, but I would say that one would be more helpful in certain circumstances, and that is up to you, right? But I would just say ultimately that this is helpful. You know, what came to mind when I read about the transcendental meditation is something that has helped me with thought and going beyond thought, and it makes sense. Transcendental meditation. It's actually a mixture between mindfulness and transcendental, but I'm going to share it here. Just going to shoot it out here and here now live. I've done it before. I do it often. So it's like a mixture. So ultimately what you're doing is you can state a mantra. You can say Om, or you can say Ram, 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 Ram. But I wouldn't do it out loud. Do it in your head. Allow that voice within the mental field, it's going to say Om or Ram. So I think that would be different than transcendental meditation. It seems like you're repeating it out loud. This one, I'm literally encouraging you to like use that voice in your head. Say Ram, Ram or Om, all right? And as the voice is repeating the same sound, right? So I'm going to pick one. We're going to say Ram, Ram. So in your mind, start saying that in the mind. So that voice, it's going, it's moving, it's doing its thing, it's doing what it wants to do. Notice the repeated sounds. Notice the ram ram. Just notice it, and not just notice that, but notice everything around you. Notice movement, notice sounds everywhere else, right? Just notice. Notice how in that noticing, you're not that consumed in the thought. You can bring awareness to so many other aspects of the moment. That right there serves as a reminder that you are not your thoughts, that those thoughts will continue to move and flow in the background, so long, in the background or the foreground. It's going to be in the foreground if we're too consumed in it, but the thoughts will be there. Right? So it's not a matter of trying to get rid of the thought. It's more of where are we putting our awareness and attention. So we can continue to say Ram, Ram, Ram in the head, but we don't get attached to that, right? We just notice, oh, the voice is speaking, but the noticing is still there. And that shift in consciousness, the more we expand our awareness and the more we allow ourselves to be in that state of being, that becomes our everyday state of being. So a thought arises, someone says something to us, does something, we're non-reactive to it, right? Cheers to that. Thank you, Paulo Ricardo. Great question. I am Shibi. When the mind is devoid of thoughts and words, the answer to the question, who are you, is simply I am. Flow, baby. Cheers to that. Right? You ever ask yourself, who am I? Good. You're in a great place. That's a great place to be. Who am I? Mage Matthews, do not try to do, just do. Observe the now, notice the now. I'm starting to get it. Much love, Mage. There we go. There we go. Here Now Live doing its thing. We're all here, expanding our present moment awareness, right? It's a recognition that it's all, life is simple when we let it. Life is simple when we let it. And that practice of just noticing, we can just notice right now. We don't have to talk about doing it in the future. We could do it right now. Everything I share, once again, everything I share here in the space is a pointer to now. It's a pointer to this very moment. They're all pointers. Ibrahim, Is noticing what your thoughts make you feel count as observing your thoughts? Yes. Noticing the thought, noticing the feeling, right? What we feel is a mirror of thought within the body, so they often work together. They're tag teaming in some form or way. When you choose to just notice, you notice. Honestly, choosing to notice, it gives us an opportunity to break so many ties we have to, like, even people. That's what's coming up for me right now. It's like, let's say that we're upset with someone. Ultimately, in that moment, a form of forgiveness is required, right? A form of letting go of what happened, a release, a non-attachment to how that person may have made you feel, right? A great way of that attachment, releasing that attachment is one, I would say recognition that this is my definition of forgiveness, but forgiveness is letting go of your expectations you've had of somebody else. Often we have to forgive someone because we expected them to behave in a certain way, to be something, and they responded outside of that. So now we're not the most happy with that individual. So when we choose to say, I'm going to allow this person to be exactly who they are. I accept that this happened. I allow them to be exactly who they are, right? We're already cutting that attachment we had, that expectation we had of that person. It does not mean we're going to condone any behavior that is out of pocket. This is an example of prioritizing your state of consciousness, prioritizing your peace. This is why we say forgiveness is for you, first and foremost. It's for you. And when we choose to, notice that... Boo-boo. One sec. Oh, go. Have fun. Have fun. Burp, burp, burp. All right. So when we choose to simply notice, that is very helpful when it comes to letting go of that attachment. Because the attachment comes from being consumed in that stream of thinking. But when you notice, you're inviting in space. So the thoughts are flowing, and very quickly they fade away. So we may not be necessarily watching them for as long as we watch a movie, but we see them and they fade away because we don't give them power, because we're not giving them energy, because we're not consumed in them, because what is in the foreground is awareness. Mage Matthews, how do you recognize resistance for what it is and not be overcome in consumption by it blindly? For your first question, I would say recognize resistance. I think that's the first step, right? How does resistance manifest within you? Does it manifest with tensing up, shoulders tight? That's why often if we get massages and we're tight here, resistance is held here a lot. Tension. Sometimes in our hands, resistance is manifesting. I would say notice resistance manifesting within the body. So one way that this could be helpful for us to simply notice resistance is to be aware of how resistance arises in our day-to-day. And one could be tension in the body. I notice what happens in meditation with me. I'll be completely still, so still. And I know resistance arises when I break out of that stillness. When I'm like, because I'm trying to resist something that arises. Once I notice it, that's it, I notice it. There's enough space for me to choose to go back into stillness. Or whatever else I may want to do. Maybe I'll be like, oh, wow, I'm resistant to that. All right, cool. And step back into it. It's all up to you, right? What matters most is a space. So how do you recognize resistance for what it is? Start noticing where resistance arises. That's the simplest thing. And acknowledge it, even one time, right? Acknowledge it by thanking yourself. You say, this is what I do for myself, especially at the end of meditation. It's always great to thank yourself for your practice. You thank yourself and you say, thank you for recognizing resistance. Thank you. Thank the resistance. Thank you, resistance. It might seem counterintuitive, but thanking resistance actually allows us to flow with resistance, which is very interesting. When we thank the resistance, we're not meeting resistance with resistance. For example, when resistance arises, we don't feel this need to like punish ourselves or like to feel bad or like shameful or like upset because we weren't non-resistant. It's a moment-to-moment awareness. So you might be still. You break out of that stillness because of resistance, but then you just move back. It's just a noticing. That's it. It's just a noticing of all that's happening. There's an allowance there, right? An allowance. And to not be, and I think I just answered your second question, right? And not be overcome in consumption by it blindly, right? Same thing, right? Ultimately, I highly encourage that continuous being with yourself in space, being with yourself in silence, being with yourself in stillness, and you'll see the ease in that recognition of resistance, and not only just recognizing it, but just noticing it, right? That's the big thing, noticing it, and thank yourself. So what you're doing is you're creating a flow. You're creating this inner environment within yourself to allow the thoughts to flow. So you're noticing and you're allowing, you're noticing and you're allowing, and you're shifting and you're moving. So wholeness is expanding. You're recognizing wholeness. You're not judging yourself for resisting. You're just allowing the resistance to be there, right? The resistance, a lot of what our body does and a lot of these habits, they're actually meant to help serve us. They were created in some form or some way to serve us. And ultimately that ends up hurting us, right? A certain thought, even negative thoughts or dark thoughts, thank them too, because ultimately they're coming up because there is an intention that you have, an underlying tension that you didn't really recognize that you had. Come, Bubs. All right. This is Queen's room. I'm just live streaming in it. I'll give you an example of what I was just sharing. There could be this thought that continuously arises, and it says, there's something you'd like to do, right? And it says, I can't do it. I can't see myself doing it. I can't do it. It's a thought, and it seems like a negative thought. It's tearing you down, right? It feels that way. Why is that thought arising? Why do we keep saying that? That thought is actually helping you not try, so you don't experience rejection, so you don't experience failure. You don't make a mistake, so you don't try at all, right? That thought is actually aiding in an intention that you didn't know you had, an underlying unconscious intention. And it's to not experience fear or vulnerability or anything like that. So you're saying, telling yourself, I can't do it. Because when you truly, truly feel you could do something, that thought will arise, but it won't matter. The fear of rejection, it might be there a little bit, but ultimately it won't be it won't be what drives you, right? Not what drives you, but it won't affect you so much, or it won't affect you at all, right? So this is why I say thank them, number one, just because it's a noticing of that, wow, these thoughts are actually walking me in an intention that I set. It's unconscious, but it's taking me to what I asked for. This is why we observe the mind, observe thoughts, so that we can become conscious of these underlying intentions that we didn't know we had. We didn't know we had them. And in that space, just a pause, a little space of awareness, it allows us to make a different choice, to see ourselves differently, to see a whole perspective, wholeness, to step out of that fragmented perspective, simply with space, simply with noticing, right? So think your thoughts. Gratitude is important because gratitude ensures that there is no war within you. Alrighty. The ego is not your enemy. Your thoughts are not your enemy. Resistance is not your enemy. None of this is your enemy. They're none of your... With the moment you create an enemy out of it, a problem out of it, it creates more unconsciousness. So this is why I encourage no war within, harmony and flow within. What arises, agree with it. What arises, just simply notice it. That's it. Notice. Paulo Ricardo. I discovered transcendental meditation today. I'm curious to try it because in theory, it's just observing your thoughts. In mindfulness meditation, we have a point of focus, but TM training is expensive. Yeah, I see that it's like an entire program, right? So it seems to be a system. But yeah, go for it and let me know if you learn anything about it, if you find it resonates with you. It seems to be, hey, if you need it and it works. But as I was reading it too, I would agree. I would say like there's definitely similarities and differences. I see a lot of similarities in it. It's just what makes it very unique is that mantra. But I found right now, I would just say right now in the state that I'm in, I recognize that it's helpful to have as little steps as possible, as little need to use the mind as possible, right? Just in the meditation that I do and that I'm sharing with you. Because when there are steps to the meditation, what ultimately ends up happening is that there's an expectation in the end. It's more mental activity. And ultimately, when I'm in a meditative state, there is not an expectation, just an engagement in the now and an alert noticing of the now. And being in a state of that flow is quite enjoyable, right? But that's just where I am right now, right? Cheers to that. Aaron Roma, welcome to the chat. Peace and love to you. Sorry, late here now. You already know. You're here now. We see this moment as a whole. This moment is whole. It's complete. It's sufficient, is enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here, for participating in this live. These questions are awesome and helpful in bringing awareness for me, right? Is the questions that you have and need. So that helps me, one, learn more myself if necessary and share with you, or it helps me bring more awareness to what to bring awareness to. That's one of the fun parts about Q&As. Of the many fun parts of Q&As, I see that Q&As are quite popular. So, writing that down. Do a lot more Q&As. Just ask me questions. All right, Mage Matthews. What is it? It's 8:30. I'm going to answer these questions that were on the community section. To those who ask questions in the community section, here I go. It's 8:30 right now where I am. Just checking on the chime. All right. So we have a question here. So what if certain beliefs are actually true? I lost all my young years to bad relationships and deep depression. That thought is so painful that it feels impossible not to identify. This is by S.A. Thank you, S.A., for this question. What if certain beliefs are actually true? That's the interesting aspect of a belief. Because when you believe it, it's true. I like to share this. One aspect of the now, of being present, is a recognition that in this moment, right, there are infinite amount of possibilities. Anything can happen. Anything can change. You can choose to shift how you see yourself in any moment. Your question, S.A., leads me to share these two dimensions of life. Something that I've learned from Eckhart Tolle that I appreciate and I recognize and see within my state of consciousness in day to day, right? There's two dimensions of life. One dimension is that dimension of being, the primary dimension. The step that you're taking right now, the present moment, this moment right here. Not only is it a dimension of being, but it's also an aspect of purpose. This is what I've learned from Eckhart Tolle. It's a purpose. Your primary purpose is the step that you're taking right now. Know that in this moment, though there might have been those experiences of the past, that in the now, that pain, the mind is identifying with that pain. When we choose to simply notice those thoughts, even notice the pain, there's already an immediate shift in no, you're not identifying with it. Awareness is in the foreground. Those thoughts and beliefs are in the background. So no longer are you identifying with that thought or those experiences. It's a recognition that now is now. Now is not the past of who you were, what you experienced. Now is now, right? The more you, once again, continue to prioritize space, even in this moment, choose to just notice the belief. To say whether a belief is true or false, right? it still compartmentalizes the moment. It still fragments the moment because you're saying, oh, this is true, this is false. Instead, make that practice of just noticing the belief. Even this, notice the attachment, right? Notice, you get that, there's a theme here, right? We're noticing everything. We're noticing an urge that arises, a rush of emotions. We're noticing everything, right? Know that all that we have experienced, right, in this lifetime, bad relationships, deep depression, it's the experience we're meant to have. It's the experience that ultimately it does shape and mold an aspect of our identity. The question is, will you stop at the pain point and say, this pain is my identity? Or will you choose to continue to flow with life and recognize that the identity is far beyond that pain, right? That you are not the pain, that this is an experience in life, an experience that you had, but ultimately attached to. And if we look at that in that perspective, in that way, in many ways, it takes away the seriousness of it. It takes away the seriousness, the attachment. It dissolves the validity of it, of that, right? Where you say, what if the thought is true? Because it's a validity. You're validating the thought. Rather, that experience was the experience you need. And maybe ask yourself, how did those moments shape you into a more wise being, a wise character, huh? I think about if I bring myself back to, I would share the same, I share the same experience, although yours is very unique and so is mine. Know that you're not alone, number one, right? Some form, some way, we've all experienced bad relationships, a form of feeling depression, right? That I would say, I like to say I feel depression because you recognize that it's temporary. It's not who you are, right? It's a temporariness. These bad relationships, these deep depressions, it's temporary. It's a temporary experience. With holding just as much wisdom as a good relationship or being happy. It holds just as much, I would say, value. What happens is, once again, that mind is picking and choosing, and it's saying, oh, this relationship, it wasn't good for you. But that relationship may have brought out certain aspects of you that you might recognize, like, hey, I didn't know I had that pattern. I didn't know I had that pattern of being, of thinking, of acting, behaving. Just notice. No shame, no guilt. Just notice it. What arises in our lives, it's not without meaning. It's with purpose. And I think if I were to sum up my response to you is, one, recognize meaning in what you experience, and acceptance, and also thank yourself for being here now. You are a conscious individual, knowing that just simply you're on my page, you're asking questions. So a conscious individual, and choose to, once again, simply notice and thank yourself for your efforts, for your non-efforts. Thank yourself for all you do. Honor yourself. Honor yourself in this very moment, and you'll start creating new moments that ultimately transcend those attachments that you had. You start seeing yourself in a new light, right? You stop for a moment and you recognize, like, right now I can make any decision I want to make. I can choose to follow in that same stream of thinking, or I can create space to consider a new one, or to just be in space. And invite those pauses, and it doesn't have to be long gaps of space. It can be simply a pause, a nice peaceful pause. I like calling them peaceful pauses. Invite in a peaceful pause. And that peaceful pause is enough for you to shift your awareness outside of that stream of thinking, switching it to a new one, or choosing to be in stillness, which is what I recommend right first. Stillness. Cheers to that. Thank you, SA. Alrighty. Morcie, I want to ask you a question. What if I don't want to feel the pain? I've literally suppressed my emotions for 2 whole years, and now I need to face it. But I am scared of them. Whenever I try to feel them, I feel anxiety. So how to feel something that you are scared of? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. When we recognize this one thing we all experience here on this planet, it's pain, recognizing this as a universal shared experience, it's pain. We're all going to feel it. When we understand that, truly accept that, it shifts from not wanting to feel pain to, in a way, allowing pain to be as it is. Often the mind creates this story with pain. It's often the reason why we get to this point of, oh, I don't want to feel it, because the mind dives into the pain and it creates a story. It creates a story that we attach to. And then we get afraid of it. We feel afraid of it. So ultimately, this is what I would share with you. 1, recognize that pain is inevitable. Thank that pain. It's a part of this life experience. 2, facing emotions is as simple as noticing them. Notice the fear that arises. Notice the anxiety that arises. Notice the pain that arises. Notice it. Right? You say, even in our language, we say this. We say, I am scared. You're not scared. You feel scared. You feel fear. But you are beyond fear. You are beyond being scared. You are beyond the scariness and the anxiety, right? You recognize that in noticing and stillness. Once again, we're coming back to present moment awareness. We're coming back to non-reactivity. In order to transcend this, it's not avoidance, but it's approach. Wholeness, right? Seeing the whole perspective. Whenever we recognize a whole perspective in our lives, notice how we're less scared, we're less worried, right? Think about a moment where you were in a certain moment and you felt fear, you felt sense of anxiety. And then maybe a moment later, maybe a couple days later, you recognize the whole experience and you're like, wow, I didn't have to feel that way. I thought this, but that wasn't what it was. There was actually a much larger perspective, right? Wholeness. When we choose to simply notice, to sit in stillness, to be with the pain, And being with the pain is just noticing, noticing the thought, the emotion, just being with it. We recognize wholeness, and no longer are we scared of it. For some, it might take that moment. Whoa, just that moment of space could have been enough. For others, maybe in that particular experience, it might take, more moments of space. It's all up to what you need in that moment. There's no need to rush out of it, right? I want to share with you all that the concept of healing, right? Healing. When we are too consumed in the mind and we're not giving enough space to just be and sit in stillness and recognize the objective reality, right? We're always going to feel a need to heal. Healing will never stop in that way, right? Because it's this idea that we need to be something else all the time. I'm scared, so now I need to be not scared, right? I feel this sense of anxiety, so now I need to not feel it. What's coming up right now is just this constant need to be something else, right? When I think healing comes from the illusion of separation. That's why we feel this need to heal, because there's this illusion, there's so this being so consumed in thought, being so consumed in the emotion, it creates this illusion that we're separate from the oneness of life, the interconnectedness, the interrelatedness of all of life. And it interferes with recognition of our true nature, which is peace, which is calm. It's just being here. It's just being here. And when we choose to, I lost it. It escaped me. I would say this, yeah. So when we choose to simply be here wholly, fully, and expand that sense of awareness, we'll be less afraid, we'll feel less anxious, and ultimately we will also feel less pain. I'm not going to say, once again, pain is inevitable, but some pain is the pain, that suffering. A lot of times the suffering creates more pain than what we need. Pain can be something that can flow through us and out of us. But because we attached onto it, it just stays with us. We're constantly feeling pain because we took that, we took the thought and emotion, we're taking it personally. We're taking the experience personally, but it's not personal. It's actually, if we just look at it as that's an event that happened. It's a happening and it's an experience, right? You all ever heard the quote, life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be had? When we shift to that state of consciousness, we take a lot less personal. We find ourselves choosing non-reactivity. We find ourselves in flow and less attached, right? So once again, I'll share with you, first off, thank the pain, thank the anxiety, just thank it. It's just sharing something with you, and sit with it and notice. That's it. Just notice. Thank you, Cab Diraxman. That's what the question was. Anais. How to control the flow of thought energy, how you let it pass through you. Chatted about that. We shared about that one a lot. Once again, you don't control the flow of thought. I think there goes that answer. Release the need to control thought and simply notice. And Anais, that is my answer to you. Strawberry. How to cope with intrusive thoughts. How to stop caring what others think of you. How to stop overthinking and using the brain. overstimulation, all this mental activity in the mind, intrusive thoughts. We chat about all of this all the time in Here Now Live. Intrusive thoughts. These are unwanted thoughts that come into the mental field. We don't want them there. What is this thought? I don't even think that way. Why is this here? Thoughts, they come from the collective consciousness. Thoughts, something I learned from Eckhart Tolle and recognized. I would say his teachings brought that to my awareness, is that thoughts happen to us. Thoughts come to us. And I'm saying this in a neutral perspective because we can take this two ways. We can have intrusive thoughts. There's two things. We can have intrusive thoughts, unwanted thoughts, but then we can have these creative thoughts, epiphanies. They're also thoughts that are coming to us. We didn't have control over that. Today in my meditation, I was there being, shifting in and out of thought, in present moment awareness, and just allowing, being there, accepting the moment. And in that moment, I recognized this flood of ideas came to me. It was a flood, a flush. It's my crown chakra open, all of these ideas, creative ideas. There's a moment where I said, okay, we got to shut this off. These are great ideas, but can we just hold it for a second? Let's put it in storage for a bit. We are powerful beings and thoughts in many ways. Once again, they're tools, they're aids. And it's just when we don't notice that thoughts are actually tools, we get really lost and we're like, I don't like this one and I like this one. And also often these intrusive thoughts are the unwanted thoughts, while we'll have creative thoughts and we're like, oh, I like that thought. I like that idea, right? We're picking and choosing what we want, right? Picking and choosing. I like the creative thought that just came to me, but I don't like this intrusive thought. It's coming to notice that a thought is a thought. A thought is a thought is a thought is a thought. It's not going to hurt you. Choose once again. Simply notice the thought. Not trying to say, oh, I don't want this one and I want this one. It's just a thought. That's it. And when you notice it, you're not giving it energy. It's going to fade away, whether in the background or it's just going to fade because you're not giving it energy. Thoughts are like entities. They're their own entity. They're in many ways you can see them as their own being in this world, right? We talk about separateness, right? We're living in the world of separateness, like things are separate. Separateness isn't good or bad. It's just a particular state, right? In one dimension of life, one state of consciousness, we recognize separation. And as we shift to another state of consciousness, everything is one. One is not better than the other. It just is what it is. It's a state of consciousness, a recognition. That's what we are recognizing here, is that the more we choose to simply notice, we begin to recognize oneness, wholeness, so that we can better understand and approach the separateness, use the separateness, enjoy this world of form, y'all. We came here to have fun, y'all. Experience life. I would say not just fun, but we're here. We experience the spectrum of all things, all right? But when we know how to experience it, it's not a matter of us wanting something or not wanting something. It's just a matter of that is what it is. That's it. So how to cope with intrusive thoughts. 1, recognize that intrusive thoughts are unwanted thoughts, all right? Recognize that, step out of the space of want and not want, good and bad, right and wrong, and simply choose to just notice. And that is how I would share, how to shift your relationship with intrusive thoughts, right? Intrusive, that's the key word. It's not intrusive, it's just a thought. How to stop caring what others think of you. What others think. Once again, I think a big aspect of that is personal example I'll share, right? One of my greatest challenges with coming online was what others would think of me. when I first started this, there was thoughts in my mind that were like, oh, this is weird. My friends aren't going to understand, and I'm going to sound like a loony, airy-fairy loony, when in actuality, this is the most grounding, I would say, topic we could talk about, but because being in the mind, that's what happens. It's such a general question, how to stop what people think of you. I'll just say this simple. I'm going to bring it back to observing the mind and thoughts. And you all here, you're watching this, you're here watching it live, you're in the chat, you're watching the recording. Just notice how everything comes down to noticing. If you continue to be in a space where you prioritize simply noticing and observing, you'll recognize that if you can simply just observe a thought that arises, that judgmental thought that you used to get caught up in, just simply notice it, you begin to shift your relationship with the way others think of you. And recognize that each person's thought of you is only a projection of the way they think. That's it. Maybe the way they think of themselves, but it's just the way they think. We all come into this world and we have unique ways of engaging with the world and perceiving the world, right? For example, myself, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy language. I enjoy speaking and writing. So the mind that I have, it's going to engage and give more awareness and attention to those aspects of the world compared to someone who might just be like this singer perhaps, and maybe most of their time they'll probably give more awareness to sound and to different things, right? Not to say anything is so separate, but just a general example. And that's why it's so important for us to all step into a space that is the present moment, where it's the objective reality. So we're honoring our very unique way of thinking and also honoring the objective reality, simply what is, that keeps us grounded. And it also helps us recognize and remember that the way someone thinks of you is more of just the way they think of themselves and the way they think of the world around them, right? So how to stop caring what others think of you? Another one, I'll just put yourself in a space where you must transcend that fear. And know that it's a lot easier than you think, than the mind makes it out to be. Often we just need to have an experience where we fully see that we can be free to express ourselves authentically and as we are. And at the same time, we don't have to concern ourselves with what others think because it's not personal. And I think that's also an aspect of being heart-centered too. So that leads me to a lot of things, but I'll keep it there and say, one, observe thoughts so that you're not reactive. When you observe the thought, you're not going to quickly believe an opinion that someone has of you, right? I go live every week. I'm posting all the time, and I get different comments here and there. I've gotten a wide variety, a spectrum of comments, and they go, spectrum of hey, I love your work to hey, delusional. But ultimately, I know that those, either way, on either side, whether it's good or bad, it's still a perspective of that individual, right? So when we step out of this space of like good and bad and things like that, it's a lot easier to recognize the wholeness of the moment and allow that person to be as they are, right? It's not it's not your business what someone thinks of you. That's their business. That's their thought. That's a thought that they chose to attach to and believe. That's not your it's not your task. It's not anything you have to, and at the end of the day, once again, the heart-centeredness, it really comes from recognizing that we're all dealing with the same thing in many ways, and that's the ego. Once again, the ego is not your enemy, but the ego, it does limit. It does limit our experience. And awakening, when we awaken, we dissolve the ego so we can experience life and see life as a whole. That's why we're here, in whole, in whatever whole means or looks like to you. Either way, there's a sense of wholeness. And we're all dealing with that. All of us, there is a concern of, oh, someone might think this of me. But the more that ego dissolves, it's no longer what they think of you. It just becomes, oh, okay, that's how they see themselves. That's the rules that they put into their life, that they made themselves follow. I don't have to follow their rules. Like you say, I don't have to follow whatever rules they made up. That's not me. I'm going to live my life. Stay in the zone. Stay in your energy field and do what you got to do. All right. Cheers to that one. And how to stop overthinking and using the brain. I would say, one, don't try to stop overthinking. Let it be. Let your thoughts be. That need to stop overthinking only creates more overthinking. What that reminds me of is that shame. We talked about shame before. And often with shame, when someone feels more shame, they ultimately continue to do that same thing they always do. That they were shamed for. They might continue to do it. It draws that individual deeper into unconsciousness because shame is just a form of humiliation, and that helps no one at the end of the day. Shame has never, some people might use shame as a way to motivate you, but personally, for me as a teacher, I don't feel that that's helpful. It adds a lot of unconsciousness. Not even feel, I just know it's not helpful. It never helped anyone. It doesn't help community. It doesn't help a sense of oneness. It creates more separation, right? So ultimately, I think I kind of, you see me losing my train of thought. Yeah, so no shame, right? Just choosing to say, it's that recognition of resistance, how to stop overthinking, right? Even how to stop caring what others think of you. You know what I want to share too? It's okay if you care what somebody thinks of you, okay? It's okay. It's okay. I think once we create this idea that that's a problem, we begin to consume ourselves in that thought more. Like, oh my God, what do they think? And it's just like, you know what? They think, you know what? Yeah, I do care, but it is what it is, right? I shared with y'all the book about the courage to be disliked, y'all. Have the courage to be disliked. The courage to be disliked doesn't mean that you want to be disliked. It doesn't mean that. You may most definitely care what people think about you. But ultimately, what holds more validity in the moment is that you have the courage to be disliked. And I ultimately, I recommend to you is have the courage to be disliked. All right. Cheers to that. Much love to the chat. Much love to the chat. These questions, they're going strong. I see you all here. Being heart-centered. Love that. Yes, indeed. Heart-centeredness, y'all. This chat's amazing. Loving the Q&A. And I have one last question here. Then I'm going to grab Mage's question. And we'll keep flowing into the Here Now Live. Much love to the chat. Gratitude for this moment. Gratitude for space, for being. Gratitude for the questions. And gratitude for gratitude. All right. Last question. Juliana. How do you know whether to listen to plus connect with your thoughts or emotions? ? I ask this because when I'm listening to one, I feel like I'm disregarding the other. I find that with this question, what comes in handy, Juliana, is doing nothing consciously. And I say that because when you do that, there's no rules, right? There's not, one thing like within the question, there was a rule that was created, and we don't know that, right? We don't know it. But it's, how do you know whether to listen to your thought or your emotion? So already within that, there was a rule that was created that says, I must only listen to the thought. I must only listen to the emotion, right? Or, right? Because it's like, I feel like I'm disregarding the other. What I would share in a moment of non-reactivity is you don't need to worry about what you need to listen to, a thought or emotion. Just honor what arises. That's it. Just bring awareness to what is arising. There's nothing you need to do about it, right? In this live, for those who have been watching, for many who are in this, the Here Now community, my greatest message to everyone is noticing its space. You don't need to feel the need to make a change right now, right? Because that often it creates a pressure. It actually creates more mental activity. Like, okay, I noticed, now I need to do something next. It's like this idea of I need to do something right now. When in actuality, you probably actually don't need to do anything right now. All that's necessary is a noticing. And you'll notice with enough space, you notice enough that many moments that transformation happens on its own. You are aware in the moment of the next step to take, simply because that's the direction you feel drawn to taking. And it doesn't need to be super complicated. It's actually very simple, right? So Juliana, right? How do you know whether to listen to or connect with your thoughts and feelings? I don't know. And you don't need to know. Just be there and simply notice what is arising. And even that feeling of disregard, notice the feeling of disregard, right? You might be judging yourself and saying, oh no, I'm disregarding the thought. I'm disregarding the emotion. It's not, that's an idea made up like, what if you just listen to the emotion? Just do that. What if, not listen, but what if you just, listen is one word, but what if you just notice the emotion? Just notice the emotion. Just notice the thought. You're not really disregarding either. Honor what comes up, right? You're not disregarding them. You're not, right? We let go of the judgment and we just like be there, right? Once again. So there's a pattern here that I see. Cheers to that. Thank you for your question, Juliana. Yeah, there's a pattern, and this is good to see and be aware of. The mind creates so many rules. There's so many rules, and this is why I share with y'all. It's always best to have. I would recommend as little activity as possible. That's why it's all it is noticing. So that's why there are no steps. I can share some insight about what to be aware of. Like, hey, notice this, notice that, notice this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there isn't anything you have to do. And just being comfortable in the space of knowing that there's nothing you have to do, that's powerful in and of itself. In and of itself. Cheers to that. Cheers to the Here Now Q&A. All right. I am Shebi. The key is not adding a story to a thought, which creates more thoughts. Cheers to that, right? Once again, less mental activity. Simply, right? We say, let's say you do end up adding a story to the thought. Just notice the story. Notice it. Y'all, noticing is powerful. Noticing is your awareness. Your awareness is everything. This live, I'm ultimately sharing with you the power of awareness. In every answer, every response, noticing was there. Awareness was there. Once again, these are all just pointers. I say these, I'm saying it with words these words are all a description of the experience that is ultimately beyond the mind. The words cannot encapsulate the entire idea. This is why I continue to point you to presence, to point you to noticing, to point you to where the attachment is, where the rule is that the mind's made up. The mind's not going to understand. In fact, when you are aware, the mind is going to keep talking. I would say not just the mind, I'm going to say specifically that voice. It's going to keep going. That's what I'm saying. The voice doesn't really matter, because when you shift where awareness is in the foreground, the thoughts will be in the background. And you'll notice, oh, I actually don't need to control the thoughts, because awareness is aware of awareness itself. And yeah, right. I'm going to leave it there. Cheers to that. Thank you for that. I am Shebi. Grab Adrian's question instead. Adrian, where you at? Oh, here we go. Adrian, Morcie, remember when I said I was going to write down a trigger and burn the paper? Yes, Adrian. I remember. Did you do that? If so, how was the experience? I think I did. So made you ask can you give a deeper example of an unconscious intention? Can you think of a time this happened to you? I think I answered that right. It's one of those, I shared a bit of, when we say certain things, we have certain negative thoughts. We say they're negative, but it's a thought that ultimately it gets in the way of, I would say, this is how I'll explain the example. I shared it, but I'm going to share it again, right? You have this intention. You say, my intention is to go to the gym for an hour tomorrow. You're not used to going to the gym, or perhaps you haven't been to the gym in a while, and the mind is like, oh my gosh, going back to the gym, overthinking, blah, blah, blah. I need to do this and that. You can't do this. No. That thought arises often because there's a part of you that your intention is really not to go to the gym. So the idea comes up and says, you can't do it. Oh, this is hard. It reveals to you that there is an unconscious intention not to do it. And so it creates this resistance. It creates there's a fear of rejection, a fear of failure. So that thought comes up and says, you can't do it. So it ultimately feeds and aids in your intention of not going, the unconscious intention of not going. Because if you think of a moment, you can reminisce on an experience in the past where there wasn't the unconscious intention not to do something. You were like, I'm doing this and it doesn't matter. I'm going to the gym. It doesn't matter. You're going to go. There's not going to be a resistance because there's no unconscious intention, right? So that's an example, right? The example is all of those thoughts and emotions that arise is like, oh, what if I can't, right? It's really just a part of you that doesn't want to do it. And when we just acknowledge it and we're there with it, almost like a kid, and we're sitting by that kid and saying, hey, talk to me. Share with me, right? And often that talk to me is often just you holding space for another person to speak, or just holding space for thoughts to arise. Holding space for thoughts to arise, which is simply noticing the thought arise, right? There's the unconscious intention is an aspect of the self that needs to be heard and seen fully. So give it space to express itself by simply noticing, right? That's it. Alrighty. Adrian's not here, so alrighty. Wow, what a great Q&A session. Cheers to the Q&A session. Cheers to y'all in the questions. I'm grateful I did this. I definitely will do this more often, and I hope they helped. Let me know. I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's a noticing. And if we can be more comfortable with the space and the noticing, ultimately you recognize that you are far more capable than you thought you were. Last live, we talked about overstimulation. I spent that entire week talking about overstimulation, and ultimately what I saw, it's a pattern of overstimulation, all of this excess information and knowledge, information within the mind that does stop us from doing what we intend, staying focused, right? Staying focused. So when we can recognize how overstimulation manifests within us, whether it's a headache, whether it's boredom is often a sign of overstimulation. This need to do more, I need to do more. I feel like it is. Not I feel like, but it's more of like a noticing. You notice. The boredom is like, I need to do more. My mind, it needs to continuously be stimulated until it's overstimulated, and there's so much, and that gets in the way of awareness of the now. Let's say you had a goal and you need to stay focused and concentrated. Overstimulation can do that. But you are not, I would say, chained to it. There's always a way out. I release. There's always hope. That is what I would say. There's always hope. Because in this very moment, the now, you can make any decision you choose. Alrighty. Adrian, I just burned a paper recently that I wrote about something personal. Gotcha. How did that feel, Adrian? That's a powerful experience, Initially I would say the simple idea of writing something and burning it, it may feel as though, oh, what's that going to do? But honestly, it really does help to cut a tie. It helps to cut karmic cords and cycles, those karmic cycles, for us to step out of that unending loop, maybe even a stream of thinking we continuously give validity to, our energy and identity to. Many times, something as simple as writing something down and burning it, it helps to dissolve that tie. So it's powerful. When is the next Here Now? All right, great question. I'm here every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll be here on YouTube every Sunday. I'm also on Instagram every Tuesday for Here Now Live, and TikTok every Thursday for Here Now Live. They're all at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So technically, I do Here Now Live 3 times a week, once on each platform. So I hope to see you back here again, Mage. You ask great questions, love the engagement. That is what we we love here in the Here Now community, right? We're all here. We're a part of the new earth, and our intention is just to conscious beings being more of ourselves, accepting of ourselves, and most importantly, just being here now, and expanding our awareness on what that honestly means, because we say it, we feel it a little bit, but we may not, fully know what that is, Thank you, Jason. Jason's already got it. Here Now live streams Tuesday on Instagram, Thursday on TikTok, Sundays on YouTube. You already know. Much love, Jason. Here Now Nomad. Shout out to the Here Now Nomads on here. Much love to you. Here Now Nomads, by the way, just individuals who join me on the other platforms. It's fun. I love seeing y'all travel with me. I feel like we're exploring. conversation. It might be the same topics. Conversations are, they always manifest differently, right? Flow, allowing yourself engagement, relaxation in the moment. Much love, much love. Adrian, felt like I released something. I also had to scream, cry a little. It was a tough experience, and I also struggled to write it due to some fear. I'm grateful I did it. Seemed like inner work. Much love, Adrienne. Peace, love, wholeness. Thank you for sharing. It is admirable and inspirational that you chose to be with the fear instead of running away from it. That you chose to face aspects of yourself that needed to be seen. So thank yourself for that. And much love to you. Mage, I will try. I should receive the notification, hopefully. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, at least on YouTube. On Instagram, same thing. I think TikTok, yeah. But here, as long as notification button bell is on, you'll get it. As a Here Now nomad, I can confirm it is very fun. Cheers to that, Jason. Much love to you. Much love to you. I have a question for the chat. What are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Yes, Bubs. Do you want to come back on my left? Bubs. Okay. We'll figure this out. Gratitude. Gratitude is a channel into present moment awareness. If you find yourself consumed in negative thoughts, thinking of yourself, too attached to negative thoughts, perhaps even too attached to positive thoughts, right? That can happen too. I encourage you to shift to a language of gratitude. Gratitude simply by saying something like, instead of always saying you did a great job, you can always say, thank you for showing up, right? Thank you for burning that paper and releasing that karmic tie. Thank yourself. Thank you for noticing that thought, simply noticing that thought. Thank you. Thank you for noticing the resistance. Thank you for prioritizing gratitude. Thank you for prioritizing your state of consciousness. Thank you. Just thank yourself. That's it. You see, you notice that within those sentences, what's happening is that there is no comparison. It's just a statement of what is. Thank you and what is. Not thank you in a judgment like good or bad job, but thank you and what is. Thank you. You woke up today and you got out of bed. Thank you for getting out of bed and making your bed today. Thank you. Thank you for brushing your teeth and showering, self-care. Thank you for taking care of yourself, combing your hair, washing your hair, dressing yourself. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Thank you. Thank you for being kind to yourself. Thank you for being kind to others. Thank you. You feel that difference in how you engage with the moment. There's not a comparison of, oh, I did better today than yesterday, right? So, I encourage you all continuously speaking in a language of gratitude. Alrighty, so let me know, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? This is a part of the live where we share what we're grateful for, and we write it down. And then what I do is I burn an incense and we honor it, right? It's an honoring of the moment, right? Presence is intimacy with each moment. Moment to moment awareness, intimacy with each moment. Enlightenment, same thing. Intimacy with the moment. Enlightenment. It's a state of being. And this moment right here, gratitude is a practice of intimacy with the moment. Intimacy is connectedness with the moment. There's no particular way you need to connect. Connectedness is as simple as awareness with. To honor is to see the moment as a whole. I honor it. I honor you. You see a tree, I honor the tree. You see a person, I honor the person. You see them as a whole. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be transformed. I honor you here and now as a whole, as you are. I honor this moment as a whole and as you are. That is acceptance. That's self-acceptance, right? When you accept yourself as a whole and as you are, you know that in this moment, there's nothing more or less you need. You are here. You have what you need. Self-acceptance, right? Let me know. Grateful for today's conversation. It was very nice observing all the powerful insights from the chat. Cheers to that. I agree. I think this was refreshing. And I appreciate the Q&A. On my part, it's nice because I don't feel the need to prepare as much as I usually. It's not like I prepare a lot. But it's nice to just be like, Q&A, let's chat it up. I like that. It's fun. It's fun because, it's just fun. Mage, maybe next live we'll get into some Eckhart Tolle. Oh, yeah, we can. Eckhart Tolle definitely comes up. I usually read a passage from one of his books, so definitely his work comes up. Thank you for your awareness. Much love. Adrian the cat, I know. She's quite vocal, isn't she? Aren't you, Queen? Mage, grateful for the now. Gratitude for the now, the awareness of the now. Gratitude. I am Shibi, all is well. All is abundance, all is love. Grateful for the simple joys of life. I am grateful. Cheers to that. Cheers to space. Gratitude to space. Gratitude to the awareness of space. Space is always here. I wrote something down the other day. I want to share it. Yeah. I said something along the lines of spirit is speaking, right? I was sharing with you all how I felt this, that rush, influx of ideas just flowing through, right? That's an aspect of a channeling. And said spirit is speaking. And what's so interesting is that, spirit is always speaking. It's a matter of, now I'm listening. Now I am aware. And that's ultimately what life is, right? Now. Spirit is speaking in the now. But often we get so caught up in the thoughts that we miss out on that opportunity of the now. But the good part is that the now is always here. Now is always here. So it's always just a shift in perspective, a shift in awareness, a shift in consciousness. The moment you're aware, you're present. Nothing you need to do. It's just when you're aware enough. Some light dings. Cheers to the chat. Cheers to the chat. Peace, love, wholeness to the chat. Wherever you are, I invite you to join me in this gratitude ritual. Gratitude, right? Where a ritual is just as simple as something you do consistently. You're honoring it, right? A ritual can be as simple as you waking up to go and like brush your teeth and wash your face. That's a rising ritual. When you wake up, it's a form of a ritual. There's so many things that we do are rituals we don't notice. And one aspect of a ritual, I would say, we can even say a ceremony in many ways, but a ritual is the awareness we bring to it. The more awareness you bring to what you do, you're inviting in more presence. And with this gratitude ritual, we are bringing in more presence to what already is, bringing more awareness to what already is. So I invite you to join me in this honoring of what is. You can grab a palo santo, you can grab sage, you can light a candle, you can take a sip of tea, or you can take one conscious breath with me. Join me. Gratitude. Much love to you all. Much love to this conversation, to the Here Now Live community. Words cannot describe how much I appreciate this space. Much love to you all. Peace, love, wholeness. I invite you to take this moment to be here fully. That's it. Thank you for joining me in space. Gratitude. Mage, where can we find some incenses on the East Coast? And what flavor incense was that? I used patchouli. I used patchouli. So this incense right here, it's a plant-based incense. I'm an affiliate partner with Natural Choice. I use these incense every day. When I go outside, do nothing consciously, I light it, stick it in the grass, and I'm there. So if you are interested in a plant-based incense, check out the link in my description. And when you purchase it, I receive a small commission, and you receive a big box of lots of incense. There's 10 sticks, and there's 12 incenses, right? 12, 3, 10, that's 120 incenses. And they last quite a long time. So patchouli, check it out. I'm on the East Coast too. Okay. Man, you know what I was noticing in that moment of just being? I have, every time I I'm on here, I like to assess my mind and my body, and assess how much mental activity, because I am talking, so I like to bring an awareness of that form of engagement and ensuring that I'm not doing too much. That's too much for me. And there are moments where I'm like, man, I need to invite in more space on here now, because sometimes I notice that I'll have a headache like towards the end, just because I found myself talking more. So I noticed, okay, I'll bring in more space. And this live, not really. So I share that as an example to notice, right? Overstimulation and how to be aware of it and what to notice. So in the present moment, you're aware of what's arising, and you can make a conscious choice as to what your next step would be. So gratitude for the awareness of that, and yeah, be still, notice that. As always, I love to read to you all. Overexertion, perhaps, but it doesn't feel that way. I would say this: I never end a live ever with like a raging headache. It's never that. It's just always like, oh, it feels like it's probably just because I was on a lot. There's a lot of lights and stuff, but I could say that it's just a noticing. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, oh yeah, my head was hurting. Probably just take in more space and we're good. And the intention anyway in Here Now Live is space, space. Space, y'all. If you take anything away from this live, here now, noticing space, you guys know the deal. You guys know the deal. So, Mage mentor, mention Eckhart. So let's read, that's what I do every live to anyone here who's new. Every live, I pick a book. So I had a Tao Te Ching that I usually read from. I'll read from Eckhart, anything like that. This book right here, powerful book. It's been helpful for me, and great foundation for what I'm sharing. If you are interested in this book, check out my inspirational book list in the link. It's a Spiritual Awakening book list. It's a list of all the books that I have read that have inspired me and continue to do so. Check out that list. When you purchase a book from that list, you are supporting me, this channel, and all my other pages, because I receive a small percentage of that. So be sure to check out the list. Grab a book. If you're liking this one, check it out. What I like doing with this book is flipping to a random page, because this book is I release. This book is passages from the New Earth. So it's like selections from the New Earth. I assume like probably what is the most significant aspects of the book, and they put it all together into this. So it's cool. I like it. So what I'm going to do, this is what I do. The Way of the Tao here. How about we do this? Let me know in the chat. Which one shall I read from? Eckhart or Tao Te Ching? I'll just pick one. I always pick one. Let me know in the chat. Pick one. Read from it. Mage, right? You're chock full of a lot of information, huh? This is why I talk about space so much, y'all. Because, we can get overstimulated even without technology. So it's so important that we learn how to invite in space. Dao. Let's go. Thank you, I am Shibi. Dao De Jing. You know, we're very used to Dao De Jing on here. And you know what I appreciate about Dao De Jing is that it speaks about how to manage a collective. It talks about governments and societies and groups, things like that, and what a peaceful ruler looks like, and what I would say, what's the other word that they made? I forgot the other, but like the opposite. So maybe like a selfish ruler, right? I appreciate this book for that. It's very helpful. So let's do this. We'll do Dao De Jing, and I'll flip to a page. And usually what we see is that what was shared in here, we had a conversation about something that was in here. We had a conversation about it in the live, a synchronicity. When we set an intention, we see how effortlessly the intention is returned back to us. How effortlessly we realize how that intention arises in the moment. So much, there's so little that we have to do, you know? So, to the book Dao De Jing, we tap into your consciousness. What is it that the Here Now Live community needs to hear today? Share your sweet, sweet messages with us. Here we go. This one popped up. Wow, here we go. So, I flipped to page 65, meditation 65. It's called Profound Simplicity from Dao De Jing. Here we go. Meditation 65, Profound Simplicity. In ancient times, rulers who followed the Tao did not puff up the people, but kept them simple-hearted. Clever people are difficult to govern. And so, governing people with cleverness is a mistake, while governing with simplicity is a blessing to all. Whoa, hold up. In ancient times, rulers who followed the Tao did not puff up the people, but kept them simple-hearted. Clever people are difficult to govern, and so governing people with cleverness is a mistake, while governing with simplicity is a blessing to all. Rulers who follow this become good models. This is governing in the spirit of the Tao. The effects of simplicity are profound indeed, deep and far-reaching. It is the very opposite of common governing, but is the most effective way to rule. There's a couple things I got from this. Some things I do have questions on, but I would say the simplicity. Today, there was many questions, right? We had so many questions. But ultimately, in the end, do you know what basically every response was? A simple response. Simple. To notice. You know what I appreciated was this line. It says, "The effects of simplicity are profound indeed, deep and far-reaching." Noticing is profound. Noticing is deep and far-reaching. Observing is profound. It's deep and far-reaching. Imagine the government encouraging the collective to simply notice. Much love to this. You keep it simple, right? It is indeed an effective way to rule. I'll share too what comes up when I think about this. Like, clever people are difficult to govern. Did not puff up. In ancient times, rulers who followed the Tao did not puff up the people. This is what's coming to me in that, right? If we notice within the collective right now, there's so many different opinions, right? Which is inevitable. We're all going to have opinions. What's happening is that there is an attachment to the opinions. And this is what strengthens the opinions. And often, this is kind of like a reality transurfing thing, but if we think of these thoughts and opinions, they ultimately become this very large energy field. And one may call this a pendulum within reality transurfing. It's just this energy field, separate entity that was created by let's say this, right? We have 3 people who think the same thoughts, right? Then more and more people join this, and now there's 1,000 people who all are grounded in, or I would just say not even grounded in, attached to this thought. Now this idea, it becomes a separate entity, and it's strong, and it's the way that these groups of people move throughout the world, and they see other people, and when one person doesn't agree with their thought, that one person gets deemed as an enemy, right? And so, in the first line of this, it says, in ancient times, rulers followed the Tao, did not puff up the people. What this comes to me is like the rulers didn't say like, hey, this opinion is right, this opinion is wrong, and essentially kind of blow up the heads of the people, right? If that makes sense, kind of shifting them more into being more attached to their thoughts, because that's pumping them up, right? They use this, the translator of this book used the word clever. When I say clever, sometimes it may, to me, clever, the word that comes up is like more mental activity, right? And cleverness, like when one is clever, one is probably thinking of quite a lot of just, I wouldn't say cunning, but clever. You're clever. You thought about something that maybe no one else had, things like that. And it says governing people with cleverness is a mistake. Perhaps cleverness can lead more to individual thinking rather than a collective thinking. When it's simple, it's easier to flow with the collective. And hey, perhaps it would be simple to be like, hey, yeah, we all have, I can't say that I sit here and I have the answers to world peace. I don't know. Maybe if we all just notice for a second, we'd have world peace for a second. But I would just say, what I'm taking away from this is like a government that truly just encourages the simplicity of life, the joys of life. You will have less of, maybe chaos is the word, but less resistance and more collective harmony and movement in a way. Yeah. I appreciate this. We definitely needed to hear this. And once again, ultimately at the end of the day, notice. Just notice. Simply notice. Thank you for joining me in that. It is 9:46. It's one of those long lives. Usually I'm out of here around 9:15, but we're doing good. We're in flow, y'all. There's been some good questions. Mage, simplicity came up a lot and during the live, simply notice. Look at that. I'm telling you, man. Just add it on and add it on. It gives us more perspective. I am Shibi, the simple joys of life. Mage, simple-hearted, not simple-minded. Nice, there we go. Simplicity. Life is simple when we let it. Simple when we let it. Simple when we notice the present moment. Mage, what I got of it was the rulers didn't complicate things to confuse the people. keeping their ruling simple and not requiring too much from the people to understand, not creating an enigma of delusions. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. The rulers didn't complicate things to confuse the people. You know what this is so helpful with, right? We spoke about this before. But recognizing leaders you can trust. The leaders that give you hope and the leaders that just instill fear. The leaders that let you know, yo, you're going to be all right. We're all going to be all right. In a way, I would just say, like, not instilling fear, right? Complicatedness is fear. Complication is fear. Life does not have to be complicated. It doesn't have to. Life can be simple. Cheers to that. Once again, my name is Morcie. I'm a coach, a teacher, a mentor, consultant, a guide. Spirit guide, perhaps. We cross paths for a reason. This is information for you to be aware of. Once again, these words, they're all pointers to this moment that's here right now. It's right here. Here Now Live is meant for us to be reminded of this very moment, the present moment. So we know how to bring ourselves back to the moment whenever we get lost in the mind. Whenever we get lost in thought, in illusion, we choose to remember, be here now. This moment is always here. We might forget because thoughts are in the foreground, but this moment is always here. Thank you all for attending today. Thank yourselves for attending this live. I'm here every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be on Instagram this Tuesday, TikTok this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me. Join me in the conversation and join me in space and stillness as we learn together and recognize together what flow looks like, what presence, inviting presence looks like in our day-to-day. Join me in this guided meditation as we close out this conscious space. Do this every live. A great way to close out the space. We were engaging and now we end in stillness. Alrighty. Cheers. Much love to the chat. Mage, I've enjoyed this all. Great minds notice alike. Trust is big commodity in the government right now. Indeed. Gratitude, I am Shibi. Mage, to everyone have a very observant good night. Peace and love to you, Mage. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Mage, I am Shibi, Just Sean, Jason. Everyone else who is here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Not just being here in this live, but thank you for being here. Just thank you for being here. I invite you to join me in this guided meditation. Today we chatted about noticing, observing and noticing and in stillness. So the intention of today's meditation is just that. Just that. Find yourself in a comfortable position. You can sit upright like myself. It is actually quite nice to have your spine straight because it encourages alertness in the moment, and it is incredibly nice. If your back starts hurting, hey, you could just chill for a bit. If you need to move. And then I encourage you to step back into stillness again. It's nice. So you could be upright like myself. You can lie down. You could sit on the floor. Whatever is comfortable to you. I encourage you to choose a position that allows you to be alert and comfortable. So you are above thought, instead of falling below thought, just falling asleep. Take this moment to notice any tension within the body. Release any tension in your forehead, eyebrows, in your jaw. Your shoulders. Relax your shoulders, relax your limbs. Allow yourself to surrender and relax into this moment. Relax into that which is holding you up, the foundation that is holding you up. And take this moment to simply be. Bringing awareness to being. Take one conscious breath in. Hold. Exhale. Stillness, silence, spaciousness. Simple yet profound. Deep and far-reaching. When we choose to honor this simplicity, we honor ourselves. We honor life. We honor flow. We honor this very moment. Often, we might find that the mind is consumed in all the mental activity. The greatest antidote for all that mental activity is stillness, silence, spaciousness. Simple. There's nowhere you need to go. There's nothing you need to buy. There's no one you need to talk to. It's so simple. Stillness. silence, spaciousness. A conscious choice to be here. To be here without expectations. Without the expectation of what you get from being here, what you receive from being here. You transcend the means to an end mentality and choose to be here. Take this moment to honor stillness. Be completely still in this moment. Bring your fullest awareness to stillness. Notice the stillness. Take this moment to honor silence. Silence is wholeness. Silence is the language of the universe. Even if you're in a space where there's noise arising, take this opportunity to acknowledge the gaps of silence that arise amongst the noise. Silence is always here. Silence is here. Take this moment to honor silence. Spaciousness, space. Space is an emptiness. It's in nothingness. This does not mean necessarily that it is with or without meaning. Space just is. Think of yourself in the middle of a beautiful field of grass. And you're making a 360 turn and all you see is space. Space. There's no interruptions, just vastness, just isness. Take this moment to acknowledge the spaciousness within your body. Acknowledge the space within the mind. Just as we did with silence, we notice the silence. Notice the space between thoughts, spaciousness within. The space is what shifts awareness to the foreground and thoughts in the background. Enough space to no longer be consumed in thought. Enough space to just notice thought. Take this moment to feel within you the inner spaciousness within. Stillness, silence, spaciousness. Thank yourself for honoring these states of being, for recognizing its existence, for being fully with it, being one with it. Thank yourself for this practice. This is powerful. This is profound. This is the moment we need. I encourage you to invite this practice into your day-to-day. When you are engaged in the moment, if you notice resistance, you notice fear arise, take a peaceful pause. A peaceful pause. Invite in space. Be still. Acknowledge the inner spaciousness and be there. Notice how no longer you are attached to the idea within the mind, but you are free. You are free. The experience of true freedom. Thank you all for joining me in today's meditation. Once again, it was another beautiful time here in the Here Now live stream. I'll be back this Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I send you all peace. I send you all love. And I send you all wholeness. Live in a state of gratitude.